Ladies and gentlemen, in life, there are paths walked by many, and then there are paths reserved only for the few, the chosen ones. But what does it truly mean to be chosen? It is not about glory, it is not about applause, it is about responsibility, a silent strength, a deep awareness. In the teachings of the ancient ones, wisdom was never shouted from rooftops. It was guarded, hidden, passed on only to those who proved themselves worthy. Not by words, but by actions. Today, I speak not to the crowd. I speak to you, the one who feels different, who knows they were not born just to follow. There are things the chosen never reveal, not out of fear, but out of wisdom, because what is sacred must be protected. So listen carefully, because the moment you understand this, you no longer live like the rest. You live like the one who was called, the one who was chosen. In a world that thrives on appearances, speed, and exposure, many are quick to share every detail of their journey, especially their struggles, but the chosen one understands something deeper, something ancient. There is a time to speak, and there is a time to be silent. When it comes to your weaknesses, your silent battles, your hidden flaws, silence is your strength, not because you're hiding in fear, but because you are still in the process of rising. You do not open the oven before the bread has risen. In the same way, you do not expose a wound before it has healed. Your weakness, when exposed too soon, invites not support, but judgment, sabotage, and distraction. The world does not nurture vulnerability the way it claims to. In many cases, it exploits it. People listen not to understand, but to evaluate, compare, and sometimes even compete with your pain. A chosen one walks with self-awareness. That awareness is not just about knowing who you are, but knowing who you share your truth with. Weaknesses are sacred spaces. They are the classrooms where your character is being forged. And no student opens the classroom door to the world until the lesson is complete. While others post their failures, their breakdowns, and their self-doubts, seeking external comfort, the chosen one understands that inner battles are meant to be faced in silence, in stillness, in solitude. Because in solitude, truth emerges, in silence, strength is built, and when you overcome what once broke you, you don't need to explain it. Your energy will speak for itself, your walk will change, your presence will shift. Exposing weakness too early is like handing someone a map to your blind spots, and not everyone who smiles at you has good intentions. Some will weaponize what you shared. Others will pretend to understand, but carry your secrets carelessly. And then there are those who will quietly rejoice that you are struggling because your pain comforts their own mediocrity. The chosen one does not give others this power. You may feel isolated. You may feel like no one understands. But that solitude is not punishment, it is preparation. In that isolation, something is being born, something is being refined. It is better to be misunderstood in silence than to be misused through exposure. Protect your process. Think of a seed underground. It struggles, it cracks open, it breaks, but no one sees this, no one needs to. It is only when it pushes through the soil, when its roots are deep and its form is stable, that it is seen. But by then it is ready, it is strong, it is growing. You are the same. There are things that must be handled internally, spiritually, with discipline and focus. The more you share your weakness, the more others feel entitled to your journey. The chosen one is not here to entertain. You are here to evolve, and evolution is quiet. So instead of speaking about the weight you're carrying, build the muscle to lift it. Instead of announcing your fears, develop the courage to face them. Instead of looking for sympathy, develop the fire that burns through anything that stands in your way. Because when you overcome, you will not need to explain your past weakness. Your strength will tell the story. There is a silent power in unpredictability, a sacred strength in privacy. When you are chosen, your journey is not meant to be laid bare before it has unfolded. The world is filled with noise, opinions, and distractions, and if you reveal your next move too early, you invite all of them into your space. Every goal, every plan, every strategy that you carry within you is like a seed, not yet rooted, not yet protected. The chosen one understands that when you speak, of what hasn't yet manifested. You give others the chance to speak doubt into it, to project their own limitations onto your vision, or worse, to sabotage it. When your path is clear to you, that is enough. You do not need the approval of others to begin. You do not need their applause before you move. You need focus, discipline, and silence, because silence cannot be attacked. What is not spoken cannot be twisted. What is not revealed cannot be blocked. The moment you expose your next step, you shift the energy. Suddenly, instead of building, you are defending. Instead of advancing, you are explaining. Instead of executing, you are distracted. The chosen one does not explain the mission. They complete it, and once it is done, it speaks for itself. Your next move is sacred. It is the result of your intuition, your insight, your alignment with something greater than yourself. Not everyone will understand it. Not everyone is meant to. When people do not understand your direction, they often try to steer you away from it. They give advice based on their fears. They measure your future based on their past. They place limits on you that they have placed on themselves. But if you are chosen, you were not built to fit into their vision. You were called to follow your own. Every time you speak of your next step prematurely, you give away a part of your energy. You dilute your focus. You risk allowing others to project their own storms into your calm. The chosen one does not need validation to keep walking. You do not need an audience. You do not need to be seen to be effective. Some of the most powerful transformations happen in silence, behind closed doors, away from the stage. While others are loud about their intentions, the chosen one is loud in execution. There is also a spiritual law at play. When you declare your move before it is grounded, you shift your focus from internal to external. You go from alignment to performance. You move from being to proving, and anything that comes from the need to prove loses its power. The chosen one walks with clarity, not because they shouted their plan, but because they trusted it. There is a rhythm to destiny, a timing to everything, and sometimes silence is not avoidance, it is alignment. Your next move will reveal itself when it's time, not when you speak of it, but when you live it. The real ones will recognize it. The rest were never meant to. The strength of a warrior lies not in announcing every battle, but in showing up already prepared. The depth of a wise one is not in what they say, but in what they keep to themselves. If you want to finish the race, don't announce when you're starting, just run. If you want to build something great, don't invite the world to the blueprint. Build it, let them see the finished work and wonder how you did it. Let your silence be your shield. Let your movement be your voice. Let your results speak everything you chose not to say. Pain is a teacher, a sculptor of the soul, and for the chosen one, it is often a companion on the path of transformation. But not all pain should be shared. There are depths within you that few can understand, let alone carry with care. The chosen one walks a path that is both sacred and solitary, and with that comes the responsibility of discernment. Not everyone who smiles at you is safe. Not everyone who listens is loyal. When you reveal your deepest pain to those who have not earned your trust, you give them access to a part of you they are not ready to hold. And when access is given without respect, damage often follows. Pain is power when processed in silence, when transformed internally, when alchemized into strength through reflection, solitude, and wisdom. But shared with the wrong people, it becomes weakness in the hands of manipulators. Some will use your story to gain advantage. Some will gossip under the illusion of concern. Others will compare your struggle to theirs, not to empathize, but to belittle your experience. And a few may pretend to care while secretly enjoying your suffering. The chosen one recognizes that true healing is not dependent on external sympathy. It is rooted in inner clarity, personal mastery, and spiritual grounding. When you speak your pain, you open a sacred door. That door should not be open to just anyone. It should be reserved for those who have shown they can be trusted with your truth, those who listen with empathy, not ego. Pain is not entertainment. Pain is not content for casual conversation. It is a sacred signal, a teacher trying to guide you toward understanding something deeper about your life, your choices, your purpose. To expose that signal too soon is to interrupt the lesson. To speak it too often is to lose its power. There are moments when you are hurting and the urge to talk is strong, but silence, when embraced properly, becomes a sanctuary. It allows the storm to pass without spreading debris. In silence, you process. In solitude, you integrate. In stillness, you rebuild. Sharing pain too quickly often invites noise, not clarity, opinions, not wisdom, judgment, not support. The chosen one does not need to be seen bleeding to prove they are human. Your journey is not made more real by broadcasting every fall. It becomes real when you rise, when you carry the scars not as wounds, but as weapons of resilience. Some will tell you that vulnerability is strength, and it is, but only when shared with discernment. Vulnerability without boundaries is exposure, not courage. It is important to remember that healing is sacred, not public. The deeper the wound, the quieter the healing, and once healed, that pain will become part of your power, not a story others can use against you. The chosen one holds their pain with honor, not shame, but also with caution, not to hide it, but to protect it until it becomes wisdom. Even in moments where you feel alone, remember that solitude is not the absence of support. It is the presence of inner alignment. It is in this alignment that your pain transforms. It teaches you what matters, who matters, and what you must become. When you protect your pain, you protect your evolution. When you reveal it to the wrong person, you risk betrayal, misunderstanding, or even mockery. Not everyone deserves access to the depths you've walked through. Your scars are not for display. They are sacred reminders of what you've endured, and only those who can honor them should ever be allowed to witness them. Spiritual growth is a quiet awakening, a deep shift that happens far beneath the surface. It is not loud, it is not performative, and it does not seek approval. The chosen one understands that spiritual evolution is not something to be paraded or announced. When you begin to grow spiritually, your energy changes, your values shift, and your perception expands. But the moment you begin to speak of it for validation, for recognition, or to prove that you are evolving, you disconnect from the very essence of that transformation. Real growth doesn't need an audience, it only needs alignment. The sacredness of spiritual progress lies in its invisibility to the untrained eye. To those who are not walking the path, your growth may appear as distance, as silence, or even as arrogance. But the chosen one is not concerned with how others interpret the journey. Your elevation is not a performance. It is a return to truth, a shedding of illusions, a silent rebellion against everything artificial. The moment you start speaking of your growth too early, it becomes a concept instead of a reality. It becomes something to defend rather than something to embody. There is a reason ancient wisdom was passed through silence, through presence, through action, not through loud declarations. The elders did not speak much about enlightenment. They lived it. They moved with grace, with humility, with quiet strength, because they knew that the more you speak of your awakening, the more ego sneaks in through the back door. The spiritual path is not about appearing elevated. It is about being stripped down to your essence. It is about losing the need to be seen, and when you truly evolve, you no longer feel the need to say it. Your energy announces what your mouth no longer needs to. When you reveal your spiritual growth to others prematurely, especially those who are not on the same frequency, you invite resistance, misunderstanding, and sometimes even spiritual envy. Some will mock what they don't understand. Others will challenge it, not out of curiosity, but out of ego. And a few will try to pull you back to who you used to be. because your growth makes them uncomfortable with their own stagnation. The chosen one does not grow for applause. You grow because your soul requires it, because your calling demands it. It's easy to share deep realizations on the surface, to quote wisdom, to talk about alignment, to speak of vibration. But none of that matters if your inner world is still dependent on external confirmation. Spiritual maturity is not found in what you say, but in what you no longer react to, in what you choose not to share, in how deeply you protect your inner sanctuary. When you keep your spiritual growth private, you allow it to become rooted. You allow it to solidify within you before the world has a chance to test it. Not every revelation needs to be posted. Not every awakening needs to be explained. Some things are meant to stay between you and the divine. Some lessons are for your soul alone. And the moment you keep them sacred, they begin to bear fruit in your life. Not in your words, but in your peace, in your clarity, in your actions. You begin to walk differently, not because you want to be seen, but because you are no longer lost. And that shift, that quiet knowing, is more powerful than any declaration. You are not here to convince others of your evolution. You are here to live it, to embody it, to protect it, because spiritual growth is not a performance, it's a path. A chosen one walks this path in silence, with humility, with reverence, because you know that the most powerful truths are not shouted. They are lived quietly, steadily, and with unwavering integrity.